Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Reports about my liquidation are really exaggerated, so I am back after a little break with another video. I am also not under quarantine in China, I am back in Germany now. So the first best thing that comes to my mind is to talk about Austria and the new Austrian government. Maybe you have heard about it too. Since January the 7th, Austria has a new coalition, and this time it is between the ÖVP of Sebastian Kurz, that is the CAC-centrist Austrian People's Party, and the Austrian Green Party. So after a very popular center-right coalition between the ÖVP and the Austrian Freedom Party, now the Green Party that rose from ruins, with a little help of course, is finally in government in Austria. In today's video, I want to talk about this new government. I want to introduce the coalition contract and go over some of the main points. And in the second half of this video, I want to tell you what I think about this new coalition, this new Austrian government, and what we might see from them in the future. But before we get started, I want to take the time to thank you all for supporting my channel. Please like, share and subscribe, and please do leave a comment. You can help this channel tremendously by sharing it with other people. If you know friends or family members who might have an interest in these topics that I discuss here, please send them a link to one of my videos or to my channel. You can also make a donation to my channel via PayPal, or you can support me via Patreon or Subscribestar. I want to thank all my supporters and all my patrons. You guys are great. Without your generous continued support, this channel would look a lot different and I couldn't do what I'm doing right now. Alright, here we go. So as you might have heard in my previous videos, the last coalition that we had between the Austrian Freedom Party and the SPÖ of Sebastian Kurz was brought down by a manufactured scandal. And of course, in the following elections by the end of September 2019, the Freedom Party had significant losses, and the Green Party, that had not even been in the parliament, could rise to be the fourth largest party in parliament with roughly 14%. So that means if you look at the situation, Mr. Kurz had all the options. He could have formed a coalition with the Social Democrats, with the Freedom Party again. It might have been 1 month of bad press maybe, but he could have done it again. But he chose to start talks and to finally form a coalition then with the party, the coalition partner that gives him only a very thin majority in parliament. So as we see in Germany, not one day goes by where the globalist media and the corporate media does not write about a centrist, conservative, green coalition. And Mr. Kurz, being good friends with Mr. Soros, maybe he got the hint, or maybe he got a direct command, I don't know, but he took it upon himself to be the first one to realize this coalition on a national level in a Central European country, that is the coalition of a quote-unquote conservative or centrist party with a European Green Party. Because this is what the media tells us, is the future. But I really want to examine the coalition program, the coalition contract, a little more in detail. So I don't live in Austria, I don't have family in Austria, I just go hiking there and climb some mountains in summer occasionally. But everything I know I got from the media. I have the advantage, of course, that I can read German, so I got everything from publicly available sources here, no inside knowledge. So I read a bunch of articles and I also read most of the coalition contract myself, and here I want to present the main points from my perspective. So Mr. Kurz said that he wants to protect the borders and the climate. And this is where it goes, you know. He says that this is a compromise, this is a synthesis of conservative thought and Green Party environmentalist thought, basically. So let's start with that. Let's start with the protection of the environment. So the coalition contract states that until 2040, Austria should be climate neutral, whatever that means. So according to the Paris Agreement, they want to limit the emission of greenhouse gases, and until 2030 there should only be electricity from renewable sources in Austria. Also, heaters that use oil and coal should be banned until 2035. Thermal insulation in houses and zero-emission buildings should be the new standard. They also want to invest a lot of money in public transport. And the federal government will invest in electric vehicles. This sounds like from the wish list of the Green Party, so I think this is what the Green Party got pretty much out of this coalition contract. But when we look at what the contract contains when it comes to taxes and finances, we see that the Green Party didn't get all too much. Remember, the ÖVP of Sebastian Kurz has 71 seats and the Green Party only has 26 seats in parliament. Also bear in mind that of the 14 ministries, only 4 are held by the Green Party. This is why Sebastian Kurz plans a massive cut in taxes. The income tax brackets will be substantially decreased from 25 to 20%, from 35 to 30%, and the last bracket from 42 to 40%. That is a tremendous decrease in taxation, and that is not at all to the liking of the Green Party, obviously. Also, businesses will have to pay less taxes under this new coalition contract. We can also see here that a CO2 tax, which is of course what the Green Party wants, is explicitly not in the coalition contract. Instead, there are some vague hints at that the prices should represent the actual costs of goods and services that emit a lot of carbon, or the production of which go along with a lot of carbon emission. Also, flight tickets should become a little more expensive. But that is not a CO2 tax. Another very important point is that the budget should be made such as that there is no new deficit. That means no new debt. This is of course a very important point for conservative people. They do not want new debt, whereas the left wants always increasing debt. The contract also contains the goal of getting the national debt level below 60%. It was actually very surprising to me when I read the sections of the contract that were about migration and security. Even though this is a coalition with the Green Party, the contract still states that migrants who broke the law will be deported. And also that there will be checks at the Austrian border for as long as the external borders, the outer borders of the European Union are not properly secured. And here comes the kicker. In case that a crisis such as we had in 2015 will repeat itself, or another such crisis will come along, according to the coalition contract, in that case there is a quote-unquote coalition-free area. That means if the Chancellor, Sebastian Kurz, and the Vice-Chancellor, Werner Kogler from the Green Party, do not agree about the course of action, then the minister in charge can unilaterally look for a majority in parliament for his plans. These ministers are of course not Green Party ministers, and with the Freedom Party being still strong in the parliament, we can imagine, for example, that it could lead to a closing of the Austrian borders if such a crisis occurs. Now, that doesn't mean that the coalition will necessarily survive and not break apart over such a disagreement, but such a scenario has already been mentioned in this contract that both parties signed. So what this corresponds to is basically wedding vows in which you state that if you really want to, you really can cheat. And then they threw in a couple more goodies for the conservative people of Austria, that until children are 14 years of age, they shouldn't wear religious garments in school. And in order to integrate into Austrian society, foreigners still have to learn German. In addition to that, this new government wants to fight poverty by transferring more money to families with children. Okay, so now you got the key points, and I want to tell you now what I think about this. Of course, we cannot look into the future, and this is just a contract that is vague in many points, and it remains to be seen how they actually live this contract, this agreement, how they actually will cast these ideas into concrete laws, and how they will react to changes. But first and foremost, I want to say, from an economical standpoint, I really wonder how they think that this can ever work. They want to lower the taxes, they want to increase spending, and they don't want new debt. That only works if you assume a scenario in which the economy will magically grow by a large margin every year. And I don't think that this will happen in Central Europe at the current global economic climate that we have. So I don't know how he wants to realize all these investments and all these bonuses and all this welfare spending, and at the same time lower the taxes and say no new debt. It doesn't take a genius to see that this probably will not work. And the other point is that me, and I'm not alone in that, and also a lot of other commentators have said that the Green Party actually got a raw deal here, or they sold themselves a little bit too cheap here. You have to know that normally when you have these coalitions that are asymmetric, that means there is a large party with a smaller partner, that normally the smaller party gets more minister positions than mathematically, according to the share of votes and the seats in parliament that they have, would be their due. Normally they get a little more power. And if you look at the details, you also see that normally when Austria had coalitions, for example, between the Conservative and the Social Democratic Party, they had that for many years. What they always did is that when one party had an important ministry, that the general secretary or the head bureaucrat in that ministry was customarily from the other party to have like a counterweight or some check there that one party cannot by dominating a ministry go completely in their favor and disregard the compromises that have been made in the coalition contract. And what do we see now? In the 4 ministries that are held by the Green Party, of course, there are powerful bureaucrats from the ÖVP, but vice versa. You don't see in every ministry that Sebastian Kurz's ÖVP holds, you don't see there powerful bureaucrats and general secretaries of the Green Party. So that means in the conservative ministries, the Green parties don't have their guy that can at least check that everything goes according to the contract. But on the other hand, the Green Party ministers, they have top bureaucrats in their ministries that basically are in the ÖVP camp. So that is a very, very important factor for the practical political work at the ministry level. But I think that the Green Party was tempted too much to write history, be the trailblazers, be the first guys who sign a contract that puts the Austrian Green Party in power on the national level in Austria. You can compare that with Joschka Fischer's German Green Party that formed a coalition at the end of the 1990s with Gerhard Schröder's Social Democrats. Now that I think of it, Mr. Kögler and Mr. Fischer actually look a little bit alike. But maybe this is all according to plan, so that conservative-minded or traditionalist people in Austria, of which there are a lot actually, would actually swallow this bitter pill and consent to a coalition between the Soros globalist Kurz and the leftist Green Party in Austria, because I don't think that a lot of conservative voters in Austria dreamed about such a coalition when they cast their votes last September. And maybe this coalition contract and the public humiliation of the Green Party for selling themselves too short here is actually deliberately done and intended to sweeten the deal in the eyes of the conservative Austrian electorate. Maybe one has to look at these things more from a PR or social engineering perspective. And these Austrians, being good, conservative traditionalists, will probably not even notice what is sold to them here, what kind of Trojan horse they led figuratively into their city. So check out the links in the description below if you want to know more, and let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this new coalition in Austria and what you expect from it. Stay tuned, and I hope you're all safe wherever you may be. Servus, Kameraden!